Welcome to the No channel. Do you know why most African countries have straight line boundaries? In this video, I will show you the main reasons making the borders of African countries straight and not natural like those of other countries. Let's start. Before discussing the borders of African countries, it's essential to understand that borders between nations are typically formed in two ways: through agreements based on negotiation or through the settlement practices and lifestyles of the people. Determining borders also involves two different methods, including natural borders using mountains, rivers, lakes as boundary markers, or artificial borders drawn by humans. The borders of African countries were formed in a rather unique way. Before 1885, there were almost no administrative borders in Africa. This vast continent had relatively sparse population, mainly consisting of nomadic tribes, making the delineation of borders almost meaningless at that time. Furthermore, considering the natural conditions of Africa, the Sahara Desert covers about a quarter of the continent's area, resulting in a lack of landscapes such as mountains, rivers, and lakes. This makes the demarcation of borders between countries a challenging task. In the early 1800s, Africa began to undergo significant changes as European traders set foot in the region to acquire timber. At that time, elephant ivory and rhinoceros horns from Africa were highly sought after in Europe. To facilitate the inexpensive purchase of African timber, European traders established numerous coastal ports protected by offshore naval vessels. However, their influence on Africa remained relatively limited. In 1876, King Leopold II of Belgium established the International African Association and enlisted the help of Henry Morton Stanley, a Welsh explorer, to assist Belgium in exploiting the continent. During the Industrial Revolution, resources such as gold, timber, rubber, and lumber in Africa were considered a treasure that many European countries coveted. In 1877, Stanley's map of the Congo River Basin revealed that Africa was an immensely vast and resource-rich land. From 1880 onwards, countries such as Portugal, France, England, and Belgium raced to colonize territories in Africa without realizing that Germany was lurking behind. In the scramble for Africa, Germany also sought to secure its share. The dispatch of German exploration teams to Africa instilled fear in the four nations of Portugal, France, England, and Belgium. Hoping to appease the hungry tiger Germany, King Leopold II of Belgium convinced Otto von Bismarck, the first Chancellor of Germany, that establishing a common commercial area in Africa was the best way to ensure benefits for all parties and avoid conflicts. To divide territories in Africa, in 1884, Germany invited 12 European countries along with the United States to attend the Berlin Conference. At the conference, Bismarck had a map of Africa erected, standing 5 meters tall. On the negotiation table, representatives of major European countries such as England, France, and Germany used red ink to draw the dividing lines of Africa along lines of longitude and latitude. For example, the border between Egypt and Sudan was drawn horizontally along the 22nd parallel north, and the border between Namibia and Botswana was drawn vertically along the 22nd parallel south. In the Berlin Conference, about 44% of Africa's borders were divided along lines of longitude and latitude, 30% were drawn with straight or curved lines, and only 26% of Africa's borders were determined based on natural features, excluding the settlement practices of indigenous populations. The outcome of the Berlin Conference is the reason why the borders of many African countries are straight and rigid as they are today. In 2010, commemorating the 125th anniversary of the Berlin Conference, many African countries called on Germany and some European countries for compensation. African nations argued that the arbitrary border divisions during the colonial period were a crime and contributed to the instability in Africa.